Welcome. Thank you for joining us at Empowering Creatives to Live Their Dreams. I'm Jessica Osrek. Today we have the founder and CEO of Boulder SEO Marketing, Chris Raulf.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. So, Chris, you made the journey from Switzerland to the US. And how did your background and experiences shape the creation of BSM? And what motivated you to pursue this path?
Yeah. So I moved to Boulder, beautiful Boulder, Colorado, back in 96. I worked for back then the Swiss Federal Railways. They had a company here in Boulder, Colorado, a joint venture between the French Railways and the Swiss Railways. So they gave me an opportunity to do a 6-month internship here. I ended up meeting my future ex-wife, all good. Uh, so we ended up living in Boulder for a year, then moved back to Switzerland for 3 years. I got into marketing when I went back to Switzerland, got a degree in marketing and business, and then I got into SEO way back. So I'm one of the early adopters. Google was called Backrub back then. I ended up working for a US financial corporation in the Zurich office.
Okay.
And I got in charge of marketing. They created a website, which was a brand new thing back then. And I noticed that the US office, they hard coded all the content into images for the German website.
Mhm.
And I started to think about, hey, how do these search engines, how can they read that hard-coded content? So that's how I got into SEO very early on. And then we moved back to Boulder, Colorado in 2000. And that's how I got into marketing. And I started to do SEO from the very beginning from that point on.
Okay. So, what year was that?
I would say 97 that I got into SEO, 96, 97. And then when I came back to the US, then it was like websites became a thing, online was a thing, e-commerce. And then I worked in various marketing positions. So yeah, I would say my start in SEO, digital marketing was like 97-ish. Yeah, long time
Okay.
ago.
Was it actually called SEO at that point?
I think that term was actually established rather soon. So I think by
Okay.
97, 98, we knew that you had to optimize for these search engines. So I think
Mhm.
that term was pretty well established in the late 90s. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. Because I know there's always an evolution of terms,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that it's stayed the course all these years. So you made the bold decision to leave corporate America after reading your horoscope. And so, what was it about that moment that gave you the courage to follow your intuition? And what advice would you give others afraid of taking a similar leap?
Yeah, so one, I had just bought a house, went through a divorce, the whole shebang. I was part-time single dad. So a lot of things were floating around in my life, and I think
Mhm.
that contributed to when I read my horoscope, which I don't really believe in, but it said if you don't make a big change today, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. So I'd been in corporate America for a while at that point, and I sort of had it, and it's getting a little bit older. I'm like, hey, if I don't make a change now, when am I gonna make that change? Or am I
Mhm.
gonna make that change? How many people do ever, start their own business and are independent? So I took a shower, thought about it with my towel around my waist, sat down on my computer, wrote my letter of resignation, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. If I don't do it now, I will never do it. So my advice to other people in a similar situation, if you don't know if you should do it or not, All in. That's the way to do it. I think I had money for about 2 months. So, it is a risk, but if you don't take risks, there's not going to be any kind of rewards, usually, in my opinion. So I took that risk, and then from that, like, second on, it was like my baby that I created, and I worked every day for long hours. I had to finish up my job, and then I worked 4, 5, 6 hours after I worked. But I
Mhm.
was excited to do it, and it didn't feel like work. I was creating something for myself, extremely rewarding. So my advice would be, if you have the energy, the willingness to do this, go ahead and do it. Yeah.
So you knew that risk was involved in creating a life that you love and creating something that was rewarding. Where did you learn that?
I was always a risk taker. I am a very analytical person in many ways, but then in other ways, I'm a very emotional person.
Mhm.
So at that point, my emotional side spoke to me, and I'm like, screw it. It's like, who cares if I don't succeed? It's not the end of the world. So I'm like, I'll give it a try. Like, the worst thing that can happen is, like, I fail miserably. I may have to go back to my parents and ask for money, which nobody wants to do, right? But I mean, luckily I'm in a fortunate situation. Like, there would have been a safety net that I could have gone back to. So I knew that, but I didn't want to go back to them and say, hey, I failed. I need money.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think you have to take a risk. It was sort of like a little bit of a calculated risk, and it certainly worked out for me.
That's amazing. So, starting a successful agency in a competitive industry like SEO is no small feat, right? So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in building BSM and how did you overcome them?
First of all, it's you that's all you're gonna do at probably the first. If you're completely self-funded, you're gonna spend a ton of time. You're gonna invest money of your
Mhm.
own. It's you. You're it. You have to be fully invested into this. So that's draining physically, mentally a little bit, but you also get this rush of, oh my God, first landed customer. That's amazing. And then all of a sudden, next one, and then the next one, and then, oh my God, now I need to hire somebody to
Mm.
help me with that, right? So it's incrementally, you deal with different things that ultimately lead to building this agency.
Mhm.
So I was lucky enough that my neighbor next door, she just had a baby, and her employer back then didn't want to give her the flexibility to work from home. And we had a chat, and she's like, hey, Chris, this is what's going on with me. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about making a change. And I'm like, hey, Chen, why don't you work for me? Right? And she thought about it, did the same thing that I did. She jumped in with, knowing that this could not work out.
Mhm.
So little things like this happen if you have a positive attitude toward change in your life. And I think that's critically important, that just be open-minded. It's like,
Mhm.
don't think that something is the end when you get there. Just like, find a way around and be creative and be excited, love it. And yeah, that's what I still enjoy about growing this business. So
Mhm.
incrementally, you deal with different things, but as long as you can overcome them, you will succeed.
So you're talking a lot about mindset. Did you have any support structure as you ventured out into this unknown territory, or have you had any support throughout the venture that you took on?
Well, yes. I mean, at different times from different people. So first of all, my wife, back then she was my girlfriend. We're
Mhm.
now second wife. We get married. She was like, "Yeah, do it. I support you." We're very similar in that. Yeah, let's give it a try, see how it goes. So it's critically important that your spouse is on board, because they will pay a price for this as well, right? If
Mhm.
your spouse is launching a business, long hours, they're gonna have to make some sacrifices. That's critically important. Then eventually I ended up teaming up with a business partner, which I never thought I would do. I'm a control freak. I like to make decisions, but we
Mhm.
met and we clicked and we ended up having this incredible partnership and relationship. So there's things that will happen along the way. Obviously, analytically think about these support systems and think about the positives and negatives that are involved with these support systems or people, but
Mhm.
ultimately trust your gut and, go with what you think is the right thing.
Mhm. Great. So, starting a business often involves a leap of faith, right? So, what's one actionable step you'd recommend to someone afraid to take that first step towards their dream?
Oh man, that's a good question. So what I do recommend, try to have money in the bank for about 6 months. I had money in the bank for about 2 months, so that's slightly stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, if you think about doing this, starting your own business, build a little cushion there so that you don't freak out if you're not profitable after month two. So have a little foundation there. And then, unlike me, where you just jump in and get things going from like 1 second to the other, maybe do a bit of planning, give yourself, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to maybe have a website already up and running. I just went all in and just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'll see how it goes. I was, I think, lucky as well. I'm knowledgeable, but I was pretty lucky to make this work. So I would say a little bit of planning will not hurt, and you probably will be more successful if you plan ahead.
So it's interesting that you mention if you're not profitable after the second month. There's some people who think you're not going to be profitable until year five. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what kind of business you launch, what kind of
Hmm.
industry you're in. I mean, if you're, a unicorn, it's like people throw money at companies. It's just a bet, right? One out of 100 may succeed. If you're a smaller business, you probably don't have the luxury of having a lot of people thrown at you. I would say, run the numbers. Numbers don't lie. I would say have a budget, do some predictions where nowadays you can go to tools like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, etc. Take advantage of these generative AI tools. They have access to all the data in the world, right?
Right.
Tell them what you try to do. Tell them to create a budget for you. It's never been easier than now to get really good help from free tools that use AI. So I would say create a budget and then it has to sync up with how much money you have for what kind of time frame, and then work toward that goal. Try to be profitable at month X, Y, or Z.
So it's interesting you're leaning on data, AI, and then when we're going back to that moment where you were just about to go in the shower, you read your horoscope, you sent your resignation letter in the towel. That was really based on intuition.
Yeah.
So how much do you feel like, when you're about to take that leap, it's really about intuition versus data?
So, I mean, I knew I was really good at SEO because I've been doing it for a very long time. I saw what I was able to do for the companies that I worked at. So I knew I was good at that.
Mhm.
And obviously, at the time when I started my business, the internet was growing like crazy. Everybody created these websites. So I was in a massively expanding market. So just knowing that and knowing that I'm really good at this gave me the confidence that I think I can do this. I can, probably sign up a few clients here and there. I started to do workshops here in the Boulder and Denver area. I love teaching. I'm good in front of people. So I think naturally had a good plan in my head to make this work. And then again, from the second that I decided to do this, I was all in. Then it was like, okay, these are all the things that I'm going to do. And I got it done, and that got the job done. That helped me land my first clients. And from that on, it was just like a snowball where first it was small, and then this thing grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, it's a decent sized company that I'm running.
You talked about categorizing problems into 5 levels to stay calm under pressure.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through how this mindset can help creatives and entrepreneurs navigate different
Yeah.
challenges?
So it's not a scientific thing that I invented. It's just like one
Yep.
day I thought about it. I'm like, okay, level one, like you die, the game over, right? Level two, you get injured in a way that's going to impact the rest of your life. Something massive happens, like, we lost our home in a fire. It's a bigger deal, or maybe that's even a level three, like you can come back from that, right? And then a
Okay.
level four is something like a bankruptcy or something big that impacts you for a certain time, but it's not going to kill you most likely.
Mhm.
And then a five is like, the lower level problems that are probably annoying, but it's like you can deal with it. So when I look at problems now, it's like, okay, is it a one, two, three, four, or five? And I try to put things in perspective where, unless I die, it's probably not the end of the world, right? So, and that seems to work for me. Obviously, people go through different traumas in their lives. Like the divorce is a big thing. It's probably a two or three.
Mhm.
But then always think about it could be worse, right? So I always think about the worst thing. It's not going to happen, so I can deal with this. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so important to keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
So you brought up the house fire. I knew that that was something that was very tragic. How did that shape your perspective of business and life in general?
Gosh. Oh, always get a little bit emotional when I talk about that.
Yeah.
So it's not just a negative thing. I mean, it's a very traumatic experience, right? Probably a level two where your life's going to be impacted for a good amount of time. It took us 2 years to move back into the house, rebuild. It's a hassle. It's a nightmare.
Mhm.
But you learn a lot about yourself. You learn that again, it's not the end of the world. It's something you can deal with. It's just stuff in a way. So you wouldn't believe it. We already have accumulated a lot of stuff in this new house here. So it's not the end of the world, and it really helped me, I think, put things in perspective and deal with lower level problems, a three, a four, or a five in a way that it's just a problem. I can deal with it. It's like, hey, let's focus on the positive side of things. We're healthy, we're doing well. The kids are doing great. They're in college. Like financially, we're fine. So I think it made me like a better person, like dealing with a situation that's so traumatic, but it didn't kill me.
Mhm.
So I can deal with lower level problems in a way better way than I used to do before.
And what year did this happen? This was a community fire
Yeah,
that happened,
yeah.
and it touched your house in the middle of the night for our
No, it
viewers,
was
just
actually
to some
luckily
background.
during the day.
Locally during the day.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Marshall Fire, December 30th, 21. It destroyed 1,100 homes in Superior, Colorado, Louisville, unincorporated Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
Uh, Very dramatic. It was a very close call. I mean, things were on fire when we escaped, so it was very traumatic. but we made it out alive, got both cats out. So yeah, could have been worse. Could have been worse.
So it sounds like you really approached it from let's look at what we have to be grateful for.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's, it's a mindset where I see a lot of people, they are so focused on the smallest issues and
Mm.
they get out of proportion and it's just going to make you sick and, it's going to age you faster. Like if you can focus more on the positive things in life, you're gonna live longer, you're gonna be happier, you're gonna have a better life in general. So maybe I needed this, right, to um become a better person. Yeah.
Mm. Do you feel like you are a better person from the experience?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, running a business, we'll switch gears a little bit. Running a business often involves facing uncertainty.
Yeah.
Can you share a moment when things didn't go as planned and how you stayed resilient in business?
Yeah. Great question. So that was also, I think, 21. It was in June of 2021
Mhm.
where Google unleashed a massive core algorithm update. We were so busy helping other businesses be successful, get more organic search traffic, leads, and sales, etc. We completely neglected our own website.
Mm,
We lost 80% of our organic search traffic overnight. We went from having too many leads to zero. Big
wow.
problem, right? When you have a big payroll, I got to feed my own family, pay college tuition, etc. That's a problem. That got my attention right away. Freaked me out a little bit, but I'm really good with dealing with problems, I guess, where, yeah, there was initial shock that, your brain just reacts in a way that, oh my God, this is crazy. But then I'm able to calm down. I've been doing yoga for a very long time. So it's like, deep breathing, collect yourself, let's think about it. So
Mhm.
the weekend after our website got hit by this core algorithm update, I worked through the weekend. I rethought everything that I knew about SEO. I came up with something that I call the SEO strategy framework. It's this crazy mind map that I visually created. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. These are the three things that we can implement in the shortest amount of time possible, which will
Mhm.
give us the greatest chance of getting back on track. It worked. In, I think, 2 or 3 months, we were back on track. And it was scary. Luckily, we didn't have to make any kind of cuts. So we had enough cushion there for a little bit.
Mhm.
That freaked me out a tiny bit. But again, it was great to deal with this problem because we have now implemented what we implemented for ourselves, for our clients, because we saw that it's working.
Mm.
So in a way, it was actually a great thing that this happened to us because it dictated the way we do business now. And there were so many benefits to being impacted by this algorithm update because it allowed us to develop a proprietary SEO methodology called micro SEO strategies, which is just wonderful. It works amazingly well. So again, it's one of these things like the house fire. It sucked, but
Mhm.
we learned from it and we actually took advantage of the traumatic situation and turned it around. So I guess I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah, no, I think that that is a skill that absolutely has helped you in multiple areas. And I love
Yeah.
that you mention a challenge or a problem, even a close tragedy, a traumatic experience, having gifts in it. One of the things that I do, so I specialize in recruitment, but also coaching. And so one of the skills that you mentioned that's so important is using the breath to change from what I hear, fight or flight, right? You're
Yeah.
panicking when that happened with your engagement. and being able to use the breath to move from that fight or flight to what I call the rest, digest, and create mode. So that's a wonderful skill that we all have, right? We all have that wonderful tool of our breath to calm us down and to move us into a place of being able to create opportunities. So there's been a lot of talk about AI. You emphasize the integration of human expertise and AI into your strategy. So how do you balance these elements to maintain authenticity while achieving innovation?
Yeah. So especially right now at the time of the recording of this podcast, we
Mhm.
are, if you look at the hockey stick effect,
Yeah.
we're like still here. I mean, this AI is evolving rapidly,
Mhm.
right? We have more and more tools at our disposal. We need to be careful to not just rely on AI, but to make it a human-driven AI-assisted process. So that micro SEO strategy that we developed back in 2021, it has completely changed, right? Because now we have AI available to
Mhm.
integrate into this methodology, which we have. So we have completely revamped the methodology. It is still a human-driven, but heavily AI-assisted process now, where with the help of AI, we can do things a lot faster in a shorter amount of time for less money, and we're actually able to achieve better results for our clients. However, at this point, it's still heavily human driven, AI assisted, right?
Mhm.
This will change over time once we reach the stage of AGI, artificial general intelligence, where these things can think like us and behave like us, right? We're still, I would say, 3 to 10 years away from the stage of AGI.
Mhm.
Right now, if you're not taking advantage of AI, no matter what kind of business you're in, I think you're missing out. We have developed something that is so advanced than I think any other agency currently has. We're doing extremely well, and I see next year, 2025, as a year of prosperity where we really can knock it out of the park with the help of AI. Still human driven.
Mhm. And do you prefer it to be human driven, or are you excited for the next evolution of AI?
I mean, reality is that with everything, every new technology, there's going to be a resistance at the beginning. People are going
Mm.
to fear that it's going to take their job. It will. Like we've already have been able to reduce some human hours because of what we created with AI, but we
Mhm.
can now, instead of getting rid of these people, we can take on more work, right? Instead of me
Mm.
having to hire more people, that's just reality. We can
Mhm.
do more with the same amount of people. All right.
Mhm.
So as with every technology, yeah, I think certain jobs certainly will go away. I already see it. That's just the way it is. So if you are an employee, AI needs to be at the forefront of your thinking. You need to think about how can you make sure that you're not going to be replaced by AI? Because I guarantee you AI will come for your job. So now's the time to upskill, take new courses on AI, make yourself indispensable
Mhm.
by becoming an AI expert, because that's what companies are looking for.
It's interesting when you say to learn about AI. Do you advise to take courses in AI that can enhance that person's specific expertise, would you say, or are you referring to it in another way?
No, I mean, every job is going to change over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Just myself, I learned prompt engineering. I'm sure
Mm.
you know the term garbage in, garbage out.
Hmm.
The better we're able to interact with tools like Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc., the better the output. So again,
Right.
I spent I think 6 days learning prompt engineering and creating a prompt sequence that allows us to create an outline for a piece of content that then a human can write. And we're
Mm,
now able to get content to rank at the top in Google in as fast as 5 weeks. Shocking, right? With the help of AI, but it required me to learn prompt engineering. So that's
mm,
exactly what I'm referring to. See what kind of AI skills are going to be required in your specific, field, industry, or specific job. And then there's so many courses available now online that you can take. This stuff is not being yet taught at universities, so just go
mm,
online and, see what's available and become an expert. Yeah.
mhm. Okay. And so when you talked about being able to get a ranking within 5 weeks, um, what is that compared to without using AI?
So I would say normally when you do SEO, like we always used to tell people, hey, don't expect anything until month 4, 5, or 6.
Wow.
If you talk with an SEO, a reputable SEO agency, that's what
Mhm.
they're going to tell you. They're like, hey, it's going to take 4 to 6 months. Now it's like, hey, I think we'll be able to show you results month 2 or 3, potentially.
Okay.
You still don't guarantee anything because I didn't write the Google algorithm.
Mhm.
But that's a massive change, right? And this is because of the help of AI and how we use a human-driven AI-assisted process. I mean, I'm really pleasantly shocked by how well this is working.
Mhm.
And I guarantee you, we're going to fine-tune our methodology. It's going to change as AI is going to evolve very rapidly. We're going to
Mhm.
fine tune our methodology, our system that we created. And I'm actually extremely excited to be in SEO. Finally, something is changing. And,
Mm.
I'm an early adopter, so I'm thrilled about what's happening here.
I could imagine. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's great. So, your micro SEO strategy delivers immediate results. And creativity, of course, also plays a significant role in standing out in SEO and digital marketing. So, how do you foster creativity within your team and in your own work?
Yeah. So we have a pool of writers that's being
Okay.
managed by our head of content. They're really good writers. We pay them a decent amount of money. People thought when, ChatGPT emerged basically 2 years ago, November of 2022, that they can now simply use that tool to write their content. No, I think good writers are so important these days. So my advice would be use really good people, pay them a fair, amount of money that
Mhm.
will allow them to create really high quality content, really high quality, whatever it is, infographics, etc. Don't go cheap. I see a lot of agencies in my space, SEO agencies, they just do things the cheap way. It's not going to
Mm.
work. I'm Swiss. I'm originally from Switzerland. We're
Yeah.
known for high quality, right?
Mhm.
That's what I go by. Quality over quantity. So I think if you want to succeed, you got to pay a fair amount of money to get high quality output, no matter what it is that you're doing. So for me, it's quality over quantity.
Well, as a recruiter, that's music to my ears. And I'm sure for creative talent, they can appreciate that too, because creative talent puts so much energy into becoming the best that they can be. And to be able to pay them a wonderful salary that they deserve and to appreciate their value, I'm sure our audience can appreciate your statement. So, how do you stay ahead of industry trends while keeping creativity at the forefront?
Yeah. So if you do a search for
Mhm.
international SEO expert, you'll find my personal website at the very top in Google.
Mm.
So I get to speak globally about SEO, AI, and the things that I'm passionate about. So by speaking globally about this topic, I have to do a lot of research because I speak in front of, sometimes hundreds, thousands of people. So the content that I provide has to be really good. So this speaking makes me do research, question things. I watch hundreds of hours of YouTube videos of the latest conferences about SEO, AI, and all the stuff that I'm passionate about. So I just learn from other experts, people that know more, than me about certain things. And so that keeps me on my toes. And then I'm a nerd. I guess I'm a nerd when it comes to SEO and AI. I test things. I try to develop new tools, things that give us a competitive edge. So I'm just passionate about what I do. And I get super excited when I figure something out that I can talk about and then implement for us and our clients.
Wow. I love that you're always learning. That's so important. What other advice would you give to aspiring creatives who want to break into digital marketing but feel overwhelmed by the competition?
Find your niche.
Mm,
When I started SEO, it was very broad, right? You had to do the fundamentals. There was no AI back then. Now things have changed. I would say if you want to break into the SEO space, find your niche. Maybe
mm,
you're going to be an SEO for plumbers or just like
mm,
a specific industry or something where you create a USP, like a unique selling proposition, like a tool or a methodology or something that differentiates you from everybody else that's doing the same thing. And then it comes down to branding, talk about this stuff, maybe start at talking at meetups. That's how I started. Now I speak
okay.
globally at big conferences.
Hmm.
But branding is going to be extremely important. Pay attention to how you talk about yourself on your website, in your social media. That's critically important for the search engines to understand who you are, why you're different. And then I would say, I'm not sure if you read the book Differentiate or Die, but it's so true. Be a little bit different than, all the other people out there that sell the same stuff, then it's just a commodity. We can, sell our solutions at a higher price than most other agencies because we're totally different. It's something that nobody else does, right? So rightfully, we're different than most other agencies and we can, charge the way we can charge.
Hmm. And so it's interesting when you talk about being different because it also, I would imagine it also requires an element of education if you are different. Do you find that to be true? And how do you apply
Yeah.
that to your marketing?
Yeah, so on the side, I teach part of a master's degree for university in France,
Hmm.
University of Glasgow, France. They have a very successful, interesting online course. So I teach. I'm not only learning, but I also teach. And what I find is that the people in my class, the ones that really get it, I see them succeed down the road. If we're connected on LinkedIn, there's always not everybody's gonna get it, but the people that
Mm,
are passionate about it, that are willing, able to learn what people like me teach out there, you
mhm,
will succeed. And I see it with many of my students. They're doing amazingly well. So continue to learn. But for me, it's like important to also teach what I'm learning. Again,
mhm,
keeps me on my toes.
mhm. Yes, I do find that teaching helps to retain the information at another
Yeah.
level. And as far as attracting different clients because of your differentiator, do you feel that you do attract clients who also have an aptitude for learning and being innovative, or is there another commonality?
Yeah, so we're not a good fit for every client out
Mhm.
there and vice versa. So I do, I would say 90% of all the calls with potential new clients. A lot of psychology goes into these conversations, as you probably know, when you interview candidates and potential clients that
Yeah.
need staffing, right? So I want to make sure that they understand who we are, why we're different, how we do things. And if they get excited, then I think we have a really solid foundation to work together successfully for a long time. So I'm a
Mhm.
teacher, I'm not a sales person. I'm a teacher, right? So I talk about what I'm passionate about. I show results that we're achieving for our clients. And if
Mhm.
they get it, similar like my students, and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I want that too. I do
Mm.
understand, then the magic happens.
Okay. No, that's wonderful. So you've successfully built a distinguished agency in a competitive field. So how do you define success and what lessons can creatives take from your definition of success?
Yeah. So two different ways of defining success. So on the business side, obviously, making money, So success, one way is like monetary, very important that my employees are happy. I don't treat them like they're my employees. Obviously, they know that, I'm the boss, the head guy. But success is that like people don't leave. They've been with me for years and years. And, we do cool things like we go to Mexico once a year and just like chill and have a good time and let's not talk about work, let's do a shot of tequila or whatever. Just have fun. So to me, success is seeing people not leave and being happy. If I can share my happiness because I make a decent amount of money with this business and I
Mhm.
see them happy, for me, that's success.
Mhm.
Um, so I would sum that up for the business side. And then success, obviously, what's happening with the business allows me to not worry about money. We get 5 kids total, blended family, pay a lot of college bills, pay a lot of apartments, etc., etc. So that is success, that I have a fulfilled, happy life and that, my wife is happy. We have a great relationship. The kids are doing well. To me, that's the most important thing. So that stuff over here, supports my happiness on this side, which is way more important. At the end of the day, when you die, you're not gonna worry about how successful your business was. It's like it's the personal stuff, do people love you? Like, were they happy, etc.
Absolutely. And going back to the coaching that I do, it's really important to be rich in all four areas of the life that we're always getting results from. And those are our health and well-being,
Yeah.
right? Love and relationships, time and money freedom, which you talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
the more money we have, the more freedom we have to do what we want to do, give what we want. And then our vocation, like how are we giving our gifts to the world? And a lot of times that is in the form of career for many people. So, what role does mindfulness, you mentioned doing yoga, meditation, what role does mindfulness play in your personal and professional life? And how can creatives integrate these practices to enhance their work and well being?
Gosh, I mean, you're spending so much time in front of your computer, working, dealing with people. I think you need to be yourself. A lot of people, they play somebody else when they're at work.
Mhm.
I got started in sales. I was a sales guy back in the day, cold calling. You put on a persona that often you not really are. So I think mindfulness is the ultimate state of being who you really are, who you want to be. You're 100% honest with yourself and the people around you. You're like in this constant state of it's like reality. Like you don't have to lie about things. You can be honest about things. And that means that sometimes at work, I have to have conversations that are not pleasant, but it's okay to say, what, it's not going to be the most pleasant conversation, but we're going to get to it. It is what it is. So there's no need to lie about things or label them in a different way than what they really are. It's like, just put it out in the open. To me, this is mindfulness. It's such a broad term that we could talk about forever. But I think the more honest you are with yourself and others, that's going to lead to a state of great mindfulness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that you clearly had an evolution. A few minutes ago, you were talking about how you don't do sales, you educate your prospective clients and see if they get it. And then, but
Yeah.
you did have experience doing cold calls. And so it sounds like you evolved in the area of sales to be more mindful and authentic. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, so I think cold calling, it's a challenging job, but
Hmm.
I was actually really good at it because I
Okay.
took on a slightly different persona than what I was because I was measured by how many sales I make, right? So you have to make sure you make those sales and quotas, etc., which I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of quotas, stuff like that, because I think it alters how you do business. So luckily, I'm the boss. Nobody's going to fire me if I don't make the sale. So for me, every position that I had, including that cold calling sales job, I think was
Uh-huh.
critically important for me
Mm.
to get to the point where I am at now. So it's basically you're filling your backpack with, many different things that eventually create you as a person. I'm so glad I did that sales job for a while. I learned so much, but so did I from the other positions that I held. It's like, life is like this puzzle, right? There's so many little pieces to it, and at some point it may be complete. Maybe you're gonna miss a few pieces here and there.
Mhm.
But if you can naturally get to completing that puzzle, I think you eventually, achieve complete mindfulness. Yeah.
Mm. I love that analogy. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
Oh boy, I mean, life is short. Um, Take advantage of every day, like every
Mm.
second. Um, oh my God, getting emotional again. Just recently, a friend of mine passed away,
Mm.
say similar age like mine, and we had just met, and it can happen, very, very tragic circumstances. It can happen, right? That's back to the level one where you cannot come back from. That's the worst thing. So I think it can happen, right? So be aware of that life is short. Anything can happen at any time. Make the most of this personal gift called life. And
Mhm.
if you're able to start your own business, how wonderful. There's so much joy in doing this stuff.
Mhm.
If you can't, then it's not the end of the world, right? Try to be fulfilled in your job. I'm sure you place a lot of people with, interesting companies. So you're doing a very mindful thing to a lot of people out there. This is not for everybody running your own company. If you can do it, great. If not, don't worry about it. Find a great occupation that fulfills you. And then again, enjoy every moment that you have. That's would be my closing argument.
I think that's a wonderful closing
Yeah.
argument. Well, thank you for participating in my show, Chris. And I'd love to have you on my show again for us to hear more about your achievements and the impact that BSM is making in the world.
Thank you so much. Would love to be back on your show. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, I'd love to be back here.
Well, wonderful. And thank you for joining my show, Empowering Creatives to Live Their Dreams. I'm Jessica Osrak. You can do it. I believe in you.